Hello and good evening, and welcome back to the Newcastle International Film Festival, the first one, and what a great festival it's turning out to be. And welcome to Fright Night. So we have some horror for you tonight, or some sci-fi action horror, and we are in the company of director Neil Marshall and the actors Craig and Sean Pertwee. So they're just over there, and they will be doing a great Q&A afterwards, and we can get to ask them some questions. Now, Doomsday was Neil's his third film. He had done Dog Soldiers and The Descent before that, and this was his sort of first foray into like bigger budget. The scale of this film is, you know, for any filmmaker, it's a massive challenge, and I think that he did something extraordinary, you know, channeling the kind of energy of the 80s kind of action movies, Carpenter stuff, Mad Max, you know, and he put all of the things he loved into one film. And as a filmmaker, I think this is a spectacular and really fun movie. So we look forward to your questions afterwards, and enjoy yourself with Doomsday. Out of interest, who's just seen that for the first time in this room? Yeah. So, and what a crazy and mad movie it is, and it really does channel the kind of 80s, you know, gore, horror, science fiction, violence, and I think Neil Marshall is the man who is going to tell us a lot more about this. So I'd like to invite Neil to the stage, Sean Pertwee and Craig Conway. We'll share mine. So, Neil, this was your third movie, and can you just tell us about what gave you the idea for this in the first place as a filmmaker? And it's a massive production as well from what you've done before, so talk us through, how did this film happen?
Yeah, it was definitely a step up from doing Dog Soldiers and Descent. Another D movie, that worked out nicely. I'm trying to remember, like, it's like it's coffee. I had this vision in mind of a futuristic soldier squaring off with a knight on a horse. A great image. It was just this image that came into my head, and it was then a process of like, well, how can I make a film that would like have that moment in it that wasn't to do with time travel? That didn't want to do a time travel movie. And somehow or other I came up with this concept of like, you know, if somewhere was blockaded or quarantined and left to die, that maybe in the future you'd go back there and revisit it. And the concept of it being Scotland, because I know Scotland very, very well.
Hadrian's Wall was always a big thing.
Hadrian's Wall, yeah. Was that, you know, there are castles there that have stood, you know, an awful long time and will be still standing, and you know, in a long time, you know, in the future, they were built to last, and therefore the idea that a generation in the future might utilize these castles to live in, and therefore some of them are museums, some of them have got suits of armour and all that kind of stuff.
Actually, as a quick aside, one of my favourite little bits in the film is the bit in the castle, which has been repurposed as a castle, but there's still the sign gift shop.
Absolutely.
So
that's a big thing about it, is that you have these sequences in castles, but there is gift shops and emergency exit signs all over the place because it's just a castle. It's like.
But the fact it's been repurposed, they've gone back to this medieval state.
And if you look at the costumes throughout, nobody's wearing like traditional medieval costumes, except maybe Malcolm. But everybody else is wearing a mix of like this, like a parka with some like chainmail underneath, or somebody's wearing like a tank driver's hat with some armor and stuff over the top. It's like it's a mix of past, present, and future. And so yeah, so that's where it kind of came from. Was like this idea of a quarantined place that would be trapped in time.
And Doomsday had been like it followed on the back of The Descent, which I'm sure most people seen The Descent. I'm sure they have. Which The Descent did very, very well, didn't it? So, was it Rogue Pictures who approached you? How did you get the money for this, and what kind of budget were you working at?
Yeah, off the back of Descent, I was approached by several studios about different projects and things like that, but you know, I wanted to do one of my own projects, and I had the concept of Doomsday was like written down as a treatment. and they asked me, basically they called up and said, pitch us this idea, and I did the pitch over the phone, and I thought it'd be, I spieled off this whole thing over the phone, and I thought it was a total disaster. I just thought it was a complete mess, and I was like, they're never going to want to make this movie. And they came back and said, yeah, we'll give you the money. And the budget was $28 million.
Wow, that's a big budget for that time as well.
Yeah, and obviously, because we shot it for the majority anyway in South Africa, that kind of, we got more for the money down there.
One of the things about the budget was, just as a filmmaker, how did you find dealing with the logistics? Just because the sense of scale on that film is very different to, I'm a low-budget filmmaker, we've come from that tradition, but before you were in much more intimate settings with smaller casts, smaller locations, but this film is massive. I mean, you've got literally 1,000 extras in some of those scenes.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think I don't know. I embraced the scale of it. In the scene where Sean gets cooked, we had 1,500. Yeah, we had 1,500 extras on the set that day. It's very rare that you have a scene with 1,500 extras anymore. It's all CGI, but
normally it's CGI, isn't it?
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
But with those lot, it was like we had 1,500 completely stoned South Africans, because we had them for 2 nights. We basically did that whole scene in 2 nights. And the first night we spent shooting you on stage, and the second night we spent kind of on the stage shooting the audience and all their reactions. And this crowd came along and they were so enthusiastic and so pumped up. And the reason for that was because they were all on high on drinking drugs. For 1,500 completely stoned. No, they had it. We turned it into a party. We turned it into a party. I thought it was going to be the trickiest scene to film. It actually turned out to be the easiest scene to film because they were so into it and they just had a great time. You got a great time. Sean, I don't know if you had a great time.
You were actually hanging over a gas ring when there's 1,500 people pissed, smoking fags, and they left me up there. It took too long to let me down, so they'd sort of just left me up there, and they had a lovely time flicking ash into that gas burner, which was for real. So,
and that's the thing, as I watch the movie now, like the vehicle that they hang Sean from when they cook him, they built that from scratch. They built this vehicle, and a lot of the vehicles in the movie we built from scratch. But this vehicle they built, and when Sean came out tied to this thing, I thought that was the best stunt in the whole movie. I was like, I wouldn't fucking tie myself to that thing. It's terrifying. But doing that in front of 1,500 people, that was a hell of a stunt.
That's an amazing scene, and it's so brutal as well. I mean, I really feel for Sean when I see that because it's so horrible. And it's such a great death.
Yeah, but he looks tasty though.
you shot it 4 times.
So tell us a bit about that scene then, Sean. Tell us about what it was like, and how many times did you have to do it?
Well, no, it was sort of interesting because you kind of you feel rather exposed in sort of lycra or spandex, whatever. I was hanging off this thing, and it took so long, like I said, to sort of lay it down. So I thought I'd sort of brave it out. But they were totally committed. It's actually interesting to know now that they were actually pissed, which I didn't know at the time. And that was actually a fantastic time.
That's more reassuring now, isn't it?
We were just saying earlier on, the extraordinary thing about the whole experience, my limited experience on it, because I wasn't in it very much, but the thing was the commitment, and they called themselves Generation X because we all grew up with apartheid. We will remember, those of you do remember apartheid. They were, how ostracised they were, and how delighted they were to have us there. And it was the most multicultural, multiracial scenarios or country or situation I'd ever actually been in. And they went for it 110%. I mean, half the stunt crew. This is the first time I watched it since we actually made the movie. And a lot of them weren't necessarily just trained union stuntmen. They were people, if you said, have a pint of that and set yourself on fire and jump off that, they actually did. I mean, they were extraordinary. They really were extraordinary people, yeah.
Sean, can I also ask, just while you're on mic, I think that Neil is one of the group of filmmakers that is responsible for you being the character that he seems to get killed in the most brutal and imaginative ways. I think maybe Paul Anderson started it, but Neil certainly took up the gauntlet, and Paul Hyatt, the makeup guy who's now directing, he seems to have taken over. It always seems they're sort of taking turns in killing you in the night.
I literally can't wait to see when he comes up next time.
Craig, your character, Sol, in this film, can you tell us about that and what inspired you? Because I know that Neil was inspired by the kind of, you know, the 80s movies and Mad Max and all of that kind of stuff, but where did you get that character from? Can you tell us about that character? It's insane, it's off the hook.
I think it was just every thought I'd ever had about being a really fucked up rock star. And Neil kind of just gave me, you know, the idea to go, well, in fact, actually one of the stage directions in the script is Saul comes on stage, he is a rock star. And it's like, all right, fair enough. And then that was it, you know, you get on there and like you say, when you've got, you know, over 1,000 extras staring at you in the face. I did have my, and have your very own gimp. And that is something I've wanted to achieve all my life, and I did it. So, but I think that's the thing, you know, that a film like that, you can just go for it. And everything was larger than life, but you know, it was like a party. The whole scenario was just fantastic. From the moment we arrived to getting to the end of that picture, it was just like a lifetime of lots of bizarre experiences, but it was fantastic.
So that character is so uninhibited, isn't he? He's just like a completely, like a sort of character who really doesn't give a shit about anything, it seems, but he is actually quite a smart guy because he can control this post-apocalyptic group that he seems to hold together, you know.
I mean, he has a purpose, doesn't he? You know, he is fighting to take his tribe and kind of take them out, and he wants to get over that wall. He wants to have a taste of freedom. And again, you know, those things are something that everybody connects to, especially in South Africa as well. But the crowds, we went out one night down in, you know, we'd been with them for a few days. I'd been working with them while they were building the sets over a couple of days. And we went downtown one night, and a couple of them kind of recognised us on the and they were like, that's Saul. So we were like, whee! And then it turned into another party. And it was like that. It was an incredible experience, you know.
Because you guys were out there for about, what, 56 days or something like that, was it, Neil?
Well, it was an 11-week shoot.
But maybe you were prepping before, but
yeah, I was prepping for like 3 or 4 months before that. It was a long time down there. I mean, you know, I've worked in various countries on shoots and things like that, but I've never fallen in love with the country as much as I did with Cape Town, South Africa. I mean, I'm just connected with that place.
And it's interesting though, isn't it? Because a lot of people in this room, like, if you've seen it for the first time, did you realise that Scotland was being doubled by South Africa pretty much most of the time? Which is an interesting thing when you look at it.
With the exception of the castle, obviously, that was not in Cape Town. That was definitely in Scotland.
And you did film a little bit in London as well, about 10 days, wasn't
it? Yeah, we shot Tower Bridge, you know,
which is fantastic. That's
St Paul's. There's a few bits and pieces in London, but most of it was Cape Town.
Where's the kind of Art Deco interior?
That was Cape Town.
Is that?
That's Cape Town.
Oh right, okay. This is beautiful.
The sequence where they're running from the bus to get to the station in Glasgow. That's from Cape Town, and that was like on a weekend. You know, that's Cape Town would shut down the city and dress the centre of the city for what we wanted on a weekend. It's absolutely insane.
So one of the big takeaways about post-apocalyptic futures as well, and people in this room need to be aware of this because I am, you know, you're much more likely to survive if you're a punk, you've got a Mohican, you have some sort of hairdresser or tattooist, or you're into piercings, because in the post-apocalypse, they're the people that seem to survive.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need leather jackets, you need souped-up sports cars. That's how you survive the apocalypse. Everybody knows that.
So Neil, this film, in many ways, you're homaging a lot of the things that you love. You know, particularly the Mad Max stuff with the car chase. Can you talk us about the logistics of how did filming something like that work? Because a car chase, you know, when you watch them, they're very easy to watch, but to actually do those, technically put them together. And that's very complex, that car chase. It's in quite a few different stages. Could you talk us through how a filmmaker would approach that, you know?
Well, I mean, like you say, it's a big, you know, homage to Mad Max and those kind of movies. You know, we were saying this week, you know, we're way ahead of the curve as far as like the 80s you know, throwback is concerned. Everybody's doing it with Stranger Things, and
this was 10 years ago.
This was 10 years ago. We were in the 80s then. Yeah, the car chase. I think, you know, we had 2 weeks to film it, and I'd never done anything like that before. I'd never done a car chase before, but we had. I mean, one thing that comes across in this movie, and certainly came across to us filming it, is the South African stunt team. They're bonkers, absolutely bonkers. They will do anything you ask them to do, and so
perfect for a filmmaker.
Which is absolutely, yeah, great. No, they're crazy in the best possible way. But yeah, you know, we planned it out. We literally, you know, we did the thing that you do with these car chases is you get little toy cars and you meet up first thing in the morning and you sit on the road and you get little toy cars and you go, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to drive, and then everybody gets in their vehicles and you go for it. And we were doing at least 1 or 2 major stunts or set pieces per day to pull off that car chase.
Yeah, I mean, those are big setups when you're picking cars through other vehicles.
And it's always a danger. You know, like, there's so many risks involved. We certainly had some injuries, nothing too bad, thank goodness. But you know, a few people got injured. You know, crashing a motorcycle is not easy. Flipping a van upside down and blowing it up, you know, with somebody inside it. You know, it's scary stuff to do, but it's also like, it's great fun. It's a lot of fun. And driving a Bentley through a bus, stuff like that.
Before I open this up to some questions, I just want to ask Neil just a bit about the casting, because he's got a couple of like really classic actors in there, and you know, but I understand with the Malcolm McDowell role, you had somebody else in mind for that, but you couldn't get them. Is this true?
Oh, God, yeah, that's thinking way out, yeah.
Yeah, well, God, I think when we wrote it, or when we started casting it, we dreamed that we would get Sean Connery for the role.
Did you try and get him out of retirement and he said no, though? That's what I read.
Yeah, we tried. You know, we approached him with it, we sent him the scripts and for that, but obviously, yeah, he'd retired by then, that was that. But Malcolm McDowell was bloody good.
Malcolm McDowell's one of my favourite actors,
yeah.
So he's a legend, and he's, you know...
He was such a lovely guy. And, you know, as I said before, it's like this crazy coincidence when we got Alexander Siddig to play the Prime Minister. And he's Malcolm McDowell's nephew. Like, I didn't know that until we hired him. It was like, oh, it's Malcolm. Like,
also, Bob Hoskins, another legend, one of your faves from Good Friday.
I can't say enough good words about Bob Hoskins. What a wonderful, wonderful man.
Was it Sean? Did you know Bob beforehand, you say?
No, I did, and when I was a young actor, he was so kind to me, and he was one of my heroes, you know, Long Good Friday, everything. And he was a stalwart, and he cared so deeply for if he had a child that wasn't very well. He was one of the most extraordinary men that I'd ever met, and it made me, it's a classless profession, you hope, and you hope that people care, and that's what was extraordinary about someone like him that came from his background, had the heart of, you know, the biggest heart, and he was the kindest person to people who were starting out and were scared. He was a beautiful man, R.I.P. Bob Hoskins. You know, beautiful.
The other main part, which is, you know, it's a big role, it's a female action star, Rona Mitra, and she had to do a lot of training, I imagine, to fulfill that. How did she get involved?
Yeah, well, it's pretty obvious from watching the movie that she was in great shape. And it's part of what made it convincing was the fact that she was in good shape. Because like she had to fight all these guys and stuff like that, and you know, if she'd been some kind of skinny supermodel, it wouldn't have worked. But she worked out daily, you know, and that was her regime, and it looks convincing. Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of in a way feel that we were ahead of the curve there, of, you know, giving this woman this really prime action role. And she looks convincing in it. You know, she looks like she could take on those guys all the time, and it's awesome.
And how did you cast Sean and Craig? You'd worked with them before. Was it just?
I asked them nicely.
Yeah. I mean, you've got this team of people together, the same with your production designer. You know,
absolutely. I mean, I used the same DP and production designer, and a lot of the same crew that we had on Descent. Sam McCurdy, who shot this, who shot Descent, who shot Dog Soldiers, who shot Centurion, is a Geordie, and he's one of us. So, you know, it became this kind of friendship of, a collaborative friendship of like, just working with people that you love so much. I had the opportunity to cast Craig as the villain, and let him just completely go for it. I needed to get Sean in there somewhere, and I think the bait was giving him the best death scene in the entire movie.
Sorry, he wanted me to die early on, and I wanted to go to South Africa, and he had a crazy bullshit death. The first case he got shot in the fucking got shot in the eye. I said, no. And then he really went for it. And you know, when I got barbecued, I had a hog double when they ripped me apart and everything like that. But so now I wanted the longer death, which you certainly gave me in space. Thank you very much.
So, what we'd like to do is open it up. Some of you guys must have some questions, and ask them anything, or ask them some advice about filmmaking or acting if you're interested in that as well. So, who has a question for any of us? Yes.
Great. I bet your throat was really sore. Was it after that film?
Yeah, it was actually. I didn't shout a lot. I think the New York Times actually, when they reviewed it, went, "All he does is shout." Well, yeah, of course. That's what he's doing. Yeah, but yeah, I did have a sore thought. Yeah.
I'm going to tell a quick story. The scene after everybody escapes on the train, and there's a moment where Craig shouts and he turns on and he punches the guy in the face. On, I think it's like the first or second take of that, he hit the stunt guy in the nose and broke his nose. And it made such a loud crack. Like you could hear the nose go and everything. And like,
But it was that horrible thing of going like, ah, crack, and then going, ooh.
it is a great take. It's like, ah, ooh, sorry. But the stunt guy was really happy about it. He wanted to get his nose reset anyway, and he was like, this way he could charge it to the production. So he was like, cheers, mate. And then he did it again and got it.
Right, who else has a question up there? Yes, towards the back.
I didn't notice any product placement in that film, but can you explain what the deal with Bentley was? Was it that the car had to emerge unscathed?
Okay, so we wanted an iconic car for the car chase, and we actually auditioned cars in South Africa, which was one of the most fun jobs I've done. It's like they would bring a car to the studio and I would take it out for a test drive, and we took Jaguars and Rolls Royces and BMWs and stuff out, just drive around Cape Town. I always knew I wanted the Bentley, but we didn't know if we could get any. BMW said that they would give us like a whole bunch of M6s for free and we could do whatever we liked with them. I was like, no, it's got to be a British car. And so we stuck with the Bentley, and eventually what ultimately happened was that Bentley don't make spare cars, they make cars to order, so they don't have a bunch of spare cars that they can use for product placement, unless you're James Bond, which we're not. So we actually had to buy 3 Bentleys from a South African dealer and buy them outright. And the idea was that we'd have a hero car, a backup car, and a really, really, really backup car. And yeah, my car. Jesus, right, as if. The first car, which was used as the hero car for a certain amount of time, accidentally went off a cliff. There's a bit of a story behind it, and I don't know if you want to hear it or not, but our worst day of filming on the movie was we were in the, there's the bit with the tunnel where Adrian Lester gets killed. That was an emergency exit tunnel for a real like highway tunnel that went under a mountain. We were filming there for the day. It's like where we were filming, there was a mile in each direction to the exits. And our generator caught fire. And it caught fire in a really big way, and we had to immediately evacuate the tunnel because it was filling up with toxic smoke. We couldn't go into the escape tunnel because we were in the escape tunnel. The only way to get out was to go into the highway tunnel and get run over. So we had to just jump in every vehicle we could and just get the fuck out of there. So I was hanging on the side of a van, whatever, we just got out of there. The place filled up with smoke, the firemen went in, put out the generator, but we'd lost like 3 hours of our filming day. So we were like, okay, we gotta get back in there and do some stuff. So what I did was, I took the A camera and we did some stuff with the main unit and the actors and stuff around where we'd been filming before, and I sent the B camera with the Bentley up toward the far end of the tunnel just to get a shot of it driving past camera. That's all they needed to do. But they didn't have any lights. So I said, well, what you should do is you go to the far end of the tunnel, you take the camera, you put it at the far end of the tunnel, use the daylight, point it into the tunnel and just have the car drive past. So they did that. The stunt people went past, 60 miles an hour, car stops, no problem at all. The stunt guys turn around and goes, we can do it faster for you. They go back in, they spin around, they come back out at like 100 miles an hour. And when they hit the brakes, something goes wrong with the car. The brakes seize, they lock, and the car goes into a skid. The trouble was, at the end of the tunnel, they were going to build a bridge across a river. And they never built the bridge, they just started building a bridge. So it was a big flat area with a sheer drop of like 50 feet into a river. The car's skidding toward the edge there, and the driver, there's 3 stunt people in the car, the driver, Cordell, knows that the car is going to go off the edge no matter what. He's smart enough to know that, he can't stop the car. But there is a wall to the right of him, and he has the presence of mind to take his foot off the brake, steer the car into the wall. It hits the wall, goes into a flat spin, it ends up going off the vertical drop backwards. And because it went backwards, instead of nosediving into the river, it arse-ended into the river and landed flat on all 4 wheels, and everybody walked away absolutely unscathed. And they went to hospital that night for shock, but otherwise they were at work the next day. The car itself, the bottom half of it was completely pancaked, but everything above that, like the electric windows, still worked perfectly. So that was trashed, and that became an insurance write-off. Then we moved on to car B, and that's the one that we ended up driving through. And we did drive it through a bus, and we did do all the stunts with it, and it came out pretty much unscathed. It's just that car is absolutely fucking solid, and you could not damage it. So yeah, so the third car got sold back to the retailer or whatever, and that was that. But the second car became a hero car, and then I think Bentley bought it back for spares at the end.
That's a good outlet for Bentley there.
Oh yeah, I swear by it.
Who else has a question? Yes, over there, sir.
Neil, in combat, you had to deal with some sexually, how should I say, repressed, horny northerners, including Craig. I held you in good stead with the Night's Watch and Game of Thrones, which I thought you did brilliantly with.
What was the question?
You have seen Chris horny, sexually repressed, and obviously you work on with the Night's Watch in Game of Thrones.
I did, yes.
I wonder if working with Craig and a bunch of northerners in combat helped you with it.
Well, because it's grim up north.
Exactly.
Well, you explain what combat is, just for everyone who may not know.
Well, yeah, so back in 1999, before I made Dog Soldiers, I made a short film called Combat. It's on YouTube if you want to look out for it. It's essentially like, it has no dialogue. It's about a bunch of guys who go to a bar for a night, and one of them gets dumped by his girlfriend, one of them tries to pick up a girl. It's just like, it's essentially a typical lads' night out at a bar, except that all the sound has been replaced with the sounds from a war film. Because, how can I explain it? It's like, because that's what it is. It's like you go into combat every night when you go out to a pub. So like the fans in the ceiling are like a helicopter, and like empty pint glasses are like shell casings, and tapping on the bar with your fiver to get the attention of the barmaid is like Morse code. And it's like loads of, yeah, everybody like spying around looking for talent or whatever, is like a sniper. Anyway, so it was like that. So, but how that applied to the Night's Watch, I don't know, because they were like very, very different. What the connection that is there, though, is the wall. And I've talked about this a few times. It's like Hadrian's Wall. When you grow up in Newcastle or whatever, you grow up in anywhere in the North East, Hadrian's Wall is a big part of your life, because you get taken on school trips there when you're a kid or whatever. It's like, it's there. It's just this big fucking wall. And you're like, what the fuck did the Romans build that for? Anyway, so I've done a trilogy, because I've done Doomsday, which deals with kind of a rebuilding of Hadrian's Wall in the future. I did Centurion, which like ends with the building of Hadrian's Wall in the first place. And then I did the Watchers on the Wall, which, let's face it, the wall in Game of Thrones is Hadrian's Wall. It's like, it's built of ice and 700 feet tall. It's Hadrian's Wall. And it's dealing with like keeping the Northerners, or the Scots, as by the name. Anyway, so there you go.
going on from that? Do you think because of the audience and because of the budget that TV now has, do you think it's siphoning away some of the talent from film? I mean, obviously, we've shown you worked quite a lot with Danny Cannon, who did start off, he was such a shining light from here as a director, and now he has got a brilliant career as a producer, but he doesn't get to make films as much.
He doesn't make film. He doesn't make films so much, but the guy's a genius. And we made a film called Gold here. In fact, it's my connection with Newcastle. He's one of these sort of extraordinary men that started from the bottom. His father was a property master from Arsenal. I'm Chelsea supporter. But he basically understands every echelon, every single element of the business. And what's extraordinary about him, he really is not only, I mean, he's an extraordinary man. He started at the same time as Paul Anderson, another one of your brothers here from Newcastle. And he worked his way through the ranks from being a property master to being a designer to being a standby props to being focus puller to being working for design, working for FX, working for as a lighter camera, as a focus puller, right the way through, from being a lighter cameraman to being a director, and now in fact is actually writing. Television is supposed to be the golden age of television in America. There's, as you know, I mean, it's typical. I get there when it's dying, but what I'm saying is that his application and his vision is cinematic. There's more money in television in America or in the world, I think now. Television as a medium, especially because of streaming and everything like that, is actually really the ground. It's not, they've realised now all the big networks in the States and stuff like that, it doesn't work with advertising, not sponsored by an advertiser, say. So you can probably be, if you're clever, more creative on the small screen. You know, there was this old adage that people used to say about television, that'll do, and now television actually is actually surpassed film, has raised the bar, and you see some extraordinary television now. You know, television that blows cinema, other than when you spend 75 million or billion or something on a Avengers movie or something, that really is considered and levelled. And Danny is a very clever man, as is Bruno Heller, and I think that it's a breeding ground. I just hope this is the reason why this festival's happening now. I just hope it rekindles people's passion for film, because we all love it. It's interesting me seeing Doomsday again and seeing it on the screen with an audience. I love cinema, and I hope it comes back, you know.
On that front, actually, Neil, that's a good question for you, because over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, you've mostly been doing television, some really big budget stuff like Westworld, Lost in Space, Back Sales. So you've got involved quite heavily with big Game of Thrones, Emmy Award nomination. Can you tell us a bit about what the television landscape is like in LA at the moment?
Well, I mean, there has been a complete revolution over the last 7 or 8 years in the TV world. I think what's happening now is that the lines are getting very, very blurred. There's things like Netflix and Amazon. It's just like, are they? You watch them on your TV, but are they TV? They're not really. So there's a whole new, and it's actually taking up the space that was once occupied by kind of mid-budget movies. It's like at the moment it's like there's micro-budget movies and there's mega-budget movies. And what used to be in between used to be on in the theatres. Now it's on television. And people are being given the creative means to do that and put that money into it. I don't know. It's like, I think the first major thing is like television is not to be looked down upon anymore. It used to be like movies and television. Now it's like everything's one big fuzzy thing. It's like I want to do movies because I love the big screen. I love the audience participation, which is something you don't get so much with TV. But TV is filling in an amazing space of like you get 10 episodes to tell a story that you normally get an hour to do or an hour and a half to do, and you can get into depth and do that kind of stuff. And that's amazing, that's fantastic, and the budgets are being put in for it.
One thing, I don't know if you agree with this, and perhaps people in this room may think this as well, because it's something that's crossed my mind with television. I think technology has changed. The fact that we've all got high definition TVs now. A lot of us have got big screens.
That's
just the quality of TV
yeah.
now when you watch it. When we were kids, when we were watching stuff on 4:3 low resolution, you couldn't really have wide shots because they were blurry most of the time.
That's a huge deal. You know, like people now have got their surround sound systems and their HD TVs, and you know, the idea of it being the small screen anymore doesn't quite work so much because quite often people have got really huge TV screens. And so they want their TV to be as good a quality as the movies that they watch. If they're going to watch a Spielberg movie on their Blu-ray player, they want to turn on their TV and they want it to be the same standard of quality, which I think is fair enough. You can't expect, like, people don't want to step down a few grades to watch TV, so everything has to up its game. But the big difference is, and this I talk about this quite a lot, the big difference is movies are made out of love. They're made because people want to make them because they love to make them, and that passion needs to come across the movies. You could argue that you don't need movies. You know, we want movies, we love movies, but do we need movies? That life would go on over. But in terms of the TV business, the beast needs feeding. There are these TV channels now, and they need material. They have to produce material. So in the TV world, it's like, we have to make TV shows.
Well, definitely. And on the upside, though, what's really nice is that you've now come full circle. And I'm sure most people in this room will be very excited to hear, if they don't know about the film you're working on right now. Can you tell us anything about that?
I can't, no.
Yeah. But you can tell them what it is, though, can't you?
No, well, no, I did just shoot the Hellboy reboot, but...
You've got another script as well, which may involve these lads, but you can't talk.
Well, that's way more exciting for me, is that I'm developing several projects at the moment, and I definitely want to work with these two again. Craig's going to be directing something, I'm going to be exec producing it, and Sean's going to be in it. So that's far more exciting for me. And I want to come back to the Northeast and make some stuff here as well.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, we've got a couple more, so yes.
Obviously, a lot of all of your works have very strong female leads in them, especially yours, a lot of your works have strong female lead characters and that sort of thing. That's been a trend in sort of 1780s. You've had two Maida, Ghost and Michelle, all these big blockbusters, usually with female leads in it. How do you feel knowing that you were kind of ahead of that curve and still continuing it, possibly in future projects?
I feel good. No, I mean, that's it, just, you think that Descend was like 12 years ago now, or more, whatever, oh God, that's scary. But yeah, we were ahead of the curve, and they're finally catching up, but it's very important, between, Descent, this one, even like the villain and Centurion, it's like strong female roles, very, very important.
I was just going to say, you speak very well for having no lips. It's really weird watching your face go like that, but nothing happening. Kind of freaked me out.
We have another question.
I just wanted to make an observation because this film has just reminded me how... I was interested in the way that TV has come up and that film continues, and so now we are thinking about what the difference is between film and TV. It used to be the way that it was screened, but I think it's now the format of the story, because what we got was a tremendous ride in this film, beginning, a middle and an end, which you wouldn't get in a TV series. You'd go over and over and over. So I think, like Sean, you were saying, cinema still has a strong, strong place to take us on a ride where we could not escape, despite Craig's best efforts. Couldn't escape from being this coming at us and being part of the action, whereas if it was on the telly, I might have had to go for a loo break halfway through. So I think the skill that you have taking from cinema to TV to improve TV, but we never lose the thrill of being in a dark room going on a journey that starts and finishes.
That's a very, very good point. I think we may have to wind this up in a minute, but I'm not being rude on my phone, but I've got a few little questions that Paul Hyatt, who is the makeup guy who designed the monsters in the Descent, and who's killed both of these gentlemen in various movies.
He has, and he appeared very briefly at the beginning of the film.
He's hot dog victim.
He's hot dog victim. He's a guy who's holding a hot dog that he's rigged up with squibs and shot to pieces. Yeah.
Paul is a great guy. In fact, he introduced me to Neil's films. He said to me, "You've got to come and see this film, Dog Soldiers." And we went and saw it in the Warner's Leicester Square, and that's the first time we saw that. And he hadn't worked with you at that point.
No, we first teamed up on Descent.
Yeah, so I'm just going to get up his questions. These are if
So you're going to call him up.
I'm going to call him. I'm just going to try and get into my phone. So. Yeah, I'm sure if there's a few horror fans in here, if you're gore hounds and you sort of like the gratuitous nature of some of the things that Neil does, which I've always loved from the video nasties onwards. Here's a quick fire question now.
Before you do, I'm going to say we didn't really blow up a rabbit. Just in case you're wondering.
It's bloody good, that effect, isn't it?
It was the most difficult shot to do in the entire movie, and I swear to God, if it had taken any longer, we might have blown up a real rabbit, but thankfully we didn't.
But didn't the crew want you to kill more animals after that? Wasn't there a bit of a thing?
No. There was just like it took us like 3 or 4 attempts to get the shot right, and by the end of it, the line producer was like, "Let's just blow up a fucking rabbit."
Okay, Neil, I'm going to see how well you know your own films here. This is Paul Hyatt's question. So, which film had the most fake blood used on? Out of Centurion, Doomsday, or The Descent, which one had the most fake blood?
It's got to be Descent, surely.
No, it's not. The answer is Centurion.
Really?
That's what Paul Hyatt says. He made them, but he hasn't.
Okay.
Tested to another. Okay, so here we go. Which film had the most prosthetic dead animals in it? Centurion, Doomsday, or The Descent?
No, but actual dead animals. Wait.
Prosthetic dead animals.
Yeah, prosthetic dead animals. Well, we did a deer in Centurion. We did a deer in Descent. We did a cow in this. God, I don't know.
Well, once again, Paul says the answer is The Descent.
Oh yeah, we had a cave full of dead animals. I suppose maybe that wasn't. Yeah, it's okay.
So these are actually trickier questions. I thought you would know.
Yeah. Well, it's like the thing with the swimming pool of blood in Descent. I thought that would be.
Okay, and the last one. Which film had the most prosthetic corpses?
Probably Centurion?
No, you're wrong. You're afraid. The answer is Doomsday. And he says, due to the amount of slug corpses for car scenes and piles of infected dead.
Okay.
So, there you go. Paul will be very pleased.
But he should know this stuff better than me.
This is the guy who works on his makeup effects, so he'll be delighted to know that
I got caught out with them wrong.
So, I would like to thank Neil, Sean, and Craig. Craig, Sean, and Neil. Thank you so much.